Humiliation doesn't just sting, it lingers. It replays at 2 a.m. when the world is quiet and your brain isn't. We've all felt that loop. But here's the twist most people never learn. Humiliation isn't the end of your power. It's the front door to it. The Machiavellian doesn't fear shame. He uses it. He bends the moment until the one who laughed is the one who starts bleeding status. To understand how, you first need to see why humiliation works so well on most people. It's not only about embarrassment. It's about positioning. When someone humiliates you, especially in public, they're doing three things at once. 1. They're controlling the narrative, shaping how others see you before you can even breathe. 2. They're lowering your status, grabbing the attention and handing you shame as the price of admission. 3. They're testing your reaction, because your next move determines whether you're respected, pitied, or quietly erased. And most people fail that test. They explain, they overreact, they get defensive, they try to win back approval, fast. That's exactly what your attacker wants. Proof that their shot landed. The worst signal you can send is, "That hurt me." The flustered laugh, the rushed words, the red face. That's free fuel for them and for the audience. So what's the Machiavellian move? You don't respond to the insult. You respond to the room. The crowd matters more than the attacker. Humiliation is theater. The audience decides what the scene means. So your counter isn't a comeback, it's stage direction. Step 1. Neutralize the stage. They expect heat. Give them stillness. Go quiet, not weak, quiet. Unblinking eye contact. A slow, almost surgical half-smile. Let the silence land. You're signaling calculation, not collapse. Humans fear what they can't read. When someone just took a swing at you and you go completely still, the energy in the room shifts. People start wondering, why isn't he reacting? What does she know? What's coming next? You just replaced mockery with suspense. Step 2. Reframe the attack as their weakness. Don't argue, don't deny. Drop one cold, measured sentence that turns the spotlight around. It's revealing how badly you needed to say that. Or, that's a lot of performance for so little impact. You're not defending yourself. You're diagnosing them. You're suggesting their jab wasn't strength. It was neediness. Now the audience is no longer examining you. They're examining the attacker's motives. You've turned force into overreach. That's psychological judo. Step 3. Own any truth before they can weaponize it again. If they jab something real, a failure, a flaw, you disarm it on your terms. Yeah, that happened. I'm still here, you're still reaching. Or, they've tried that one before. It always says more about them than me. Calm ownership robs the insult of oxygen. Paradoxically, it becomes proof of strength. You're unblackmailable. Machiavellians don't hide scars. They polish them until they blind. Your goal isn't to win the moment. Your goal is to install a new frame. You are unbreakable. People challenge strong. They hesitate around unbreakable. That difference is subtle, and it decides whether the crowd expects you to fold later or assumes you are the floor other people fold on. Remember this law. In public space, the person who defines the meaning of a moment controls the emotional aftermath. If you refuse the attacker's premise, their punch lands in air. Let's make it concrete. Someone says, "Didn't you mess that up last time too?" The normal script is shame, excuses, fast denial. That script hands them the win. The reversal is, pause longer than is comfortable. Let the room lean in. Then say, evenly, "You've been holding on to that for a while, haven't you?" Instantly, the topic shifts from your past to their obsession. The audience now sees pettiness instead of wit. You didn't resist reality. You reinterpreted it. Here's another scalpel. When someone throws a status-seeking jab like overcompensating much, don't defend. Tilt your head. Interesting thing to notice. You speak from experience. You've planted projection without saying the word. Now they're explaining. And the one who explains is the one who's losing altitude. A key reminder: your face is the canvas, your voice is the stage, your silence is the suspense. If you speak at all, it must never sound like defense. It must sound like direction. The moment you look like you're trying to save face, you've already lost it. But when you look like you set this trap days ago and just watched them step into it, laughter turns into discomfort. Discomfort turns into caution. Caution turns into respect. What if the jab hits a real insecurity? Good. That's leverage, on you or on them, depending on who owns it first. Speak the truth cleanly, without apology. Then stop. No over-explaining, no nervous laugh. Scar acknowledged, frame preserved. The room registers two things. You don't deny reality, and you don't bleed when it's mentioned. That's terrifying to people who survive on reactions. Lock this in. Humiliation only sticks if you accept the premise. Don't play your assigned role. Don't chase comfort. Don't perform hurt or anger. Control the pace. Control the gaze. Control the silence. When you do, you stop being the target and become the director. And when the crowd senses you're directing, they stop laughing and start recalibrating. Here's the truth no one tells you. The crowd doesn't care about what was said. They care about who looked in control. Every public moment of humiliation is a power struggle disguised as a joke, a debate, or an argument. And in that moment, the Machiavellian doesn't fight for approval. He fights for control of the frame. When someone attacks you, most people think the right move is to strike back, but retaliation shows you're emotionally hooked. The real move is stillness, the kind that unnerves everyone watching. When you refuse to react, the attacker loses their rhythm. They expected chaos. They get calm. They expected emotion. They get analysis. And the room feels the shift immediately. This is the first rule of Machiavellian defense. The one who defines the tempo defines the truth. Slow time. Drop your energy. Make your breathing deliberate. That stillness isn't weakness, it's disruption. People don't fear volume, they fear control. Now, once you've broken the rhythm, step into the next phase, the precision cut. Let's say someone sneers. You really thought that was impressive? The average person would defend themselves, explain, maybe even joke to lighten the mood. Don't. That's the trap. Instead, deliver this line with calm precision. Strange how much attention you give me for someone who's not impressed. What you've done here is pure inversion. You didn't argue. You exposed their need for you, and the crowd feels it. The power dynamic flips instantly. They thought they were the judge. Suddenly, they look like the obsessed spectator. That's the Machiavellian art, making their insult look like a confession. When someone mocks you, it usually says more about them than about you. Your goal is to expose that without lifting your emotional tone above ice cold. Another example. Someone tries to embarrass you mid-conversation, saying, "You think you're smarter than everyone, don't you?" Most people would say, "No, that's not what I meant." But that's just self-defense. Instead, you look at them and say slowly, "Interesting how quickly that came to your mind." You haven't denied it. You've reframed it. Now the room is wondering why that thought came to theirs so fast. Humiliation is never about the words. It's about who looks like they're steering reality. The Machiavellian wins not by being right, but by being undeniable. calm, centered, unshakably sure. The words themselves don't matter anymore. The crowd just feels the hierarchy shift. The next rule: don't try to be right. Be in control. When you argue, you're already beneath the one who framed the question. Machiavelli would remind you, control of interpretation always beats control of facts. So you might say, that's one interpretation, but the fact that you needed to say it says more than the words themselves. That line does two things at once. It dissolves their version of reality and pins them as reactive. Power is never about winning the debate. It's about dictating what the debate means. That's the core of frame control. Now let's talk about what happens after the moment. The echo. Once you've handled humiliation with calm precision, you never linger. You never repeat the story. You never gloat. You leave quietly, with dignity. The silence you create afterward does the work for you. People replay what just happened in their minds. They realize you didn't flinch. You didn't chase validation. You looked surgical. That silence is louder than any speech. That's the echo of dignity. In a world full of overreactions and verbal warfare, dignity is disruptive. People remember it. And here's the Machiavellian warning. The moment you pull this off, you'll attract more attempts. Power always provokes. Once people realize they can't humiliate you, they'll try subtler tactics. A compliment that cuts. A joke wrapped in harmless sarcasm. A question designed to reframe you. Expect it. The wise don't get paranoid. They get prepared. When that happens, remember this. You never react from emotion. You respond with direction. You don't just defend your name, you direct the narrative. Let's look at a subtle trap. Someone says with a grin, "Relax, we're just joking."
Say,
Average response, a forced laugh. The Machiavellian response, "Good, then you won't mind when I don't laugh." You didn't match their tone. You stayed grounded, and now the discomfort is theirs. Every failed attempt to humiliate you teaches the room one thing: you're untouchable. And the more untouchable you appear, the less anyone dares to try again. Now, here's something most never grasp. Humiliation isn't just social pain. It's identity warfare. When someone tries to humiliate you, what they're really doing is attempting to rewrite who you are in the eyes of others. It's not just about making you look bad. It's about defining you before you can define yourself. That's why the Machiavellian doesn't just fight for reputation. He engineers it. The game isn't, don't be humiliated. The game is, make humiliation impossible by controlling the meaning of every moment. So when someone mocks you in front of others, the average person tries to survive. You're not average. You absorb the attack, turn it inside out, and make the attacker reveal themselves. Because the crowd doesn't remember the insult. They remember who owned the moment. And when you stay calm, deliberate, silent, the crowd starts whispering, not about what was said, but about how you handled it. That's when power begins. Not when you shout, not when you strike back, but when your stillness forces others to lose composure. That's the first step to becoming unbreakable. Now, let's go deeper. Because humiliation doesn't always come as a joke or an insult. It often arrives disguised as exclusion, the sideways glance, the ignored comment, the way someone interrupts you just to remind you of your place. Most people react by trying harder to belong, by chasing inclusion. But that's the exact trap they set for you. The Machiavellian knows, the moment you chase inclusion, you admit dependence. You hand them proof that their tactic worked. So, here's what you do instead. Step 1. Don't chase. You disengage not emotionally, but strategically. You don't storm out. You don't sulk. You simply redirect your attention. Look elsewhere. Check your phone. Speak to someone else. You're signaling something powerful. My attention is currency, and you just lost access to it. Step 2. Reframe the room. People who humiliate you crave an audience. They feed off the spotlight. So, take it from them. Shift your energy toward another corner of the room. Start a new conversation. Drop a subtle insight. Or make someone else laugh. That's how you build gravity somewhere else. The crowd's focus will follow, and your attacker will be left performing to an empty stage. Step 3. Let silence become your weapon. Because sometimes the most brutal thing you can do is nothing. Let them talk. Let them overextend. People who humiliate others are often addicted to the sound of their own dominance. Give them rope. Just enough to keep talking until they start revealing too much. And then, when the timing is perfect, drop one line clean, cold, surgical. You seem really committed to this performance. And then silence. Don't explain. Don't clarify. Let the discomfort bloom. The moment that was meant to make you small now makes them look foolish, desperate, and transparent. You've reversed the polarity of the moment entirely. That's the Machiavellian art of redirection. You don't block the attack. You let it expose the attacker. Because humiliation only has power over people who are desperate to protect their image. Once you detach from the need to be seen as flawless, you become immune. And immunity is terrifying to those who feed on insecurity. Here's the paradox. People who can't be humiliated are the ones everyone respects most. Why? Because they've transcended social approval. They're not playing the same game. They've built a kind of psychological armor, not made of denial, but of detachment. They don't need to look perfect. They only need to look unshakable. And that's where power lives, not in aggression, but in stillness. Power doesn't scramble to save face. Power watches. Power absorbs. Power lets others lose composure first. Imagine you're in a group conversation, sharing an idea, and someone interrupts with a cutting remark. Wow! You think everything you say is that deep? The goal behind that jab is to reframe you as self-absorbed. As someone who takes themselves too seriously. The average person rushes to defend. No, I was just trying to share something. But that's the mistake. The moment you justify, you've agreed that their frame is valid. Now, watch the Machiavellian way. You pause, hold their gaze, then tilt your head slightly and say, "Interesting how much that bothered you." Nothing more. Nothing less. Instantly, the moment shifts from you being arrogant to them being fragile. The audience now wonders, why did it bother them? What insecurity did that line touch? You've just flipped the scene. That's not a comeback. That's frame control. The secret behind all this is simple. Humiliation is theater. It needs 3 things to exist: a stage, a performer, and an audience. If you remove control of even one, the performance collapses. That's why Machiavelli's golden rule was, never respond to the insult itself. Respond to the audience watching it. When someone insults you, your tone, your posture, your silence, those are your lines. Every micro-expression speaks louder than their words. When you stay centered, when you look quietly amused, you communicate something primal. This is beneath me. And that is devastating. Because the second you match their energy, you validate their game. But when you stay grounded, calm, and faintly amused, you're showing dominance without noise. You're showing that you choose when and if a conflict even exists. Now, here's the thing most people miss. Humiliation is rarely spontaneous. It's often rehearsed. Someone probably planned it. Maybe they've said it behind your back already. Maybe they've been waiting for the right audience. They think they've found your weak point, your emotional button. But when you show no button exists, you ruin their entire script. Say someone cracks. Don't worry, you'll get it right eventually. Maybe. The crowd chuckles. Everyone looks at you. Here's what you do. You lean in just a little, smile lightly, and say, "That one sounded rehearsed. You've been saving it, huh?" Instant silence. You've just destroyed the illusion of spontaneity. Now the crowd realizes it wasn't a witty moment, it was premeditated pettiness. You've reframed them as someone obsessed enough to plan their little performance. The laughter dies instantly. They become the joke. That's the Machiavellian reversal: clean, elegant, final. The goal isn't to shout. It's not to dominate the room with words. It's to control meaning through presence. You win not by making noise, but by making silence heavy. When people feel your composure more than they hear your words, they understand one thing: you are the gravity in the room. And when you become the gravity, no one can pull you down again. Let's take this further, because the deepest form of humiliation isn't just public insult. It's when someone tries to define who you are in front of others. That's not embarrassment anymore. That's identity warfare, and most people don't even realize it's happening. The crowd laughs. The moment moves on, but a frame has been planted. He's awkward. She's arrogant. He's weak. From that point forward, every future interaction filters through that image, unless you destroy it. Machiavelli would tell you, never let anyone else define the frame you operate in. The moment they do, you've already lost control of perception. And in power dynamics, perception is everything. So, how do you take that back? You use the law of disruption. When someone humiliates you, they expect rhythm. They expect emotion. They've timed their line, prepared their smirk, already imagined the audience's reaction. So your first move is to break their rhythm completely, not through anger, but through calm disobedience. You disrupt the moment by doing something that doesn't fit the emotional temperature they created. Take a long pause. Take a slow sip of water. Raise one eyebrow. Lean back slightly. Do nothing that they expected, and everything that signals composure. That's psychological chaos to them. You've just taken control of timing, and timing is the backbone of power. Now, once the rhythm breaks, they lose audience control. People begin to turn from laughter to curiosity. What's he going to do? Why isn't she reacting? The attacker's confidence wavers, the silence stretches, and suddenly, you're not the one under scrutiny, they are. Then comes the second stage, the precision cut. Now you speak, but not to defend yourself. The weak defend themselves. The powerful redefine meaning. You speak to expose their obsession. Let's say someone mocks your idea, saying, "You really thought that was clever?" You don't flinch. You simply look at them and reply, "Strange how much attention you give me for something that didn't impress you." Instant silence. You haven't insulted them. You've revealed them. You made the crowd see what was hidden, that this person is performing for approval, not speaking from power. You've reversed the polarity again. The hunter becomes the hunted. And here's the third rule. Don't be right. Be undeniable. People believe what feels powerful, not what's factually correct. The one who wins a crowd isn't the one with logic. It's the one with control. Facts matter less than presence. You might say, that's one interpretation. But the fact that you needed to say it says more than the words themselves. That's not an argument, it's a mirror. You're making them see their own insecurity, and the audience feels it instantly. Machiavelli would say, power isn't about winning the conversation. It's about owning the atmosphere that conversation lives in. You become the one who dictates how the room feels. You decide what silence means. You decide what tension means. And when you do, even your stillness becomes dominance. Once you've reversed the humiliation, you don't linger. You don't smile in victory or look for approval. You exit emotionally clean. No pride, no gloating, just gravity. That silence echoes. People remember not what was said, but how you stood there unshaken, almost detached, like someone who's seen this trick 100 times before. That's what Machiavelli called the echo of dignity. It's the power of walking away without needing applause. Because true power doesn't seek validation, it creates unease. People replay that moment in their heads. He didn't even flinch. She made him look stupid without saying much at all. That's the aftershock of composure. But be warned, once you master this, new traps will come. They'll try subtler forms of humiliation. A faintly sarcastic compliment. A question that's really an accusation. A silence meant to isolate you. Don't take the bait. Every attempt they make reveals one thing. You threaten their illusion of superiority. And that's your real victory. Not applause, not revenge, just recognition. The simple awareness that your calm unsettles them. That your refusal to play their emotional game breaks their rhythm every time. The Machiavellian doesn't need to destroy others to win. He simply lets them self-destruct under the weight of their own performance. All he has to do is stay still long enough for truth to expose itself. When someone tries to humiliate you, remember this. They're not attacking your worth. They're projecting their fear. They want to script your identity because they've lost control of their own. So your power move is not to react. It's to edit the script. You decide what the moment means, and when you do, humiliation dies right where it was born. Because humiliation can only survive if you agree to the story. Stop agreeing. Remain calm, deliberate, and watch them unravel. That's the kind of silence that turns shame into power, and power into legend. This is the final stage. The level where humiliation no longer touches you, because you've learned to bend it into power. At this point, you don't fight to save face. You control the stage itself. Every attempt to embarrass you becomes a test of composure, and your calm becomes the weapon that cuts the deepest. Here's what most people never grasp. Humiliation isn't real until you react. It's a social illusion. One that only exists if you play your assigned role. The attacker sets the stage, the audience waits, and all they need is your emotional collapse to complete the show. But when you don't react, when you slow down, when you look completely unmoved, the illusion shatters. The crowd sees it, the attacker feels it. Suddenly, you control the tempo. Machiavelli called this the highest art of power. The ability to turn chaos into theater. When someone tries to humiliate you, don't respond quickly. Pause. Always pause. That pause is gravity. It tells the room you're not inside the moment they are. You've already risen above it. Power doesn't rush. It studies. Then, when you do speak, keep it short and precise. Never emotional. Never defensive. You might say, "That's an interesting choice of words," or "You've been holding on to that one for a while." Those lines are subtle, but they slice deep. They reveal obsession, insecurity, and desperation, all without you ever raising your tone. What you're doing here is psychological redirection. You're not blocking the attack. You're letting it expose the attacker. Every humiliation attempt becomes a mirror they can't escape. Because when someone tries to mock you, it almost always reveals more about their fears than about your flaws. Your stillness magnifies that truth. But this kind of power has one demand: slow everything down. The weaker mind reacts fast. The powerful mind lets time bend around it. You lower your energy. You breathe. You let silence grow until it becomes heavy. That's how you dominate perception. People don't fear rage. They fear calm they can't interpret. And when you finally speak, speak as if you already knew the outcome. Speak as if nothing surprises you. Because the truth is, nothing should. The Machiavellian doesn't believe in surprise attacks. He knows every insult is just another stage test, another person auditioning for your reaction. And when you don't give them one, they break character. Now comes the final rule. Never try to fix the image they attacked. The moment you try to repair how others see you, you confirm it was broken. That's how most people lose power. They rush to defend, to prove, to explain. But explanation is surrender. Machiavelli understood that image can only be shaped through composure, not correction. So if someone calls you arrogant, don't deny it. Look at them calmly and say, maybe. It seems to bother you more than it does me. Now the label sticks to them, not you. If someone says, you failed before, nod slightly and say, and I still built more than you expected. That line isn't defense. It's dominance disguised as indifference. Every time you do this, you teach people one thing. You can't be emotionally baited. You've removed your buttons. You've made yourself unpredictable. And unpredictability, more than power, commands respect. Because people don't attack what they can't read, they hesitate. That hesitation is your new armor. You don't need to shout or win arguments. You don't even need to prove strength. You just need to stay still while others lose balance trying to provoke you. In time, your reputation begins to move ahead of you. People whisper, he doesn't react. He makes others look foolish when they try. That whisper spreads. It becomes your shield. That's how humiliation evolves into influence. Because the world doesn't follow the loud, it follows the composed. The ones who don't flinch, don't defend, don't explain. Those are the ones everyone studies, fears, and imitates. So, remember this. Humiliation ends the moment you stop seeking approval. It loses oxygen when you no longer care to fix anyone's perception. Your silence becomes your statement. Your calm becomes your control. The crowd won't remember the insult. They'll remember who looked in command. And when someone tries to shame you again, they'll think twice. Not because you're dangerous in words, but because you're unshakable in presence. That's the Machiavellian ideal. Not the man who strikes first, but the one who absorbs the storm, redirects it, and stands untouched when the dust settles. When you can turn humiliation into theater and composure into dominance, you don't just survive, you ascend. And from that height, no insult can reach you.